3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
TTMTrades, welcome back. We're going to be doing our daily review, but this time on ticker JAGX. That was one of my top 3 this week that I called back on the 14th. JAGX finally had its breakout, so we're going to do a quick review on it. Now, also during this review, we're going to talk about doing technical analysis on different time frames and how the smaller time frames add up into the bigger time frame. So it's never good to just look at one time frame. So for myself, I look at the daily time frame. That tells me the picture of what's going on a typical time that I hold a stock, which is from a couple of days to a week. But before I get in, I go out to the weekly to see what the overall trend is or pattern is. And then when I get ready to make my entry, based off what the daily is telling me, then I zoom in into a 2-hour chart and try to find a precise entry. Okay, so ticker JAGX. We had here, let's zoom in a little bit. Today we had a breakout on a pretty high volume, which is very good, very, very good. All right, as you can see here, made a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, big breakout, higher high. The Bollinger Bands were constricting to show you that the volatility was getting less and less. Then it finally had the breakout. Now the breakout was not on low volume for one, pretty high volume at 23.57 million. The average volume is 4.93. So we're talking damn near 5 times the amount of typical volume, which means somebody knows something, because a lot of people made entries right in this area. Okay, so the daily looks good. Now the one thing about the daily is we broke through all resistance areas, immediate resistance areas, which were, let's do some marking up right here, all immediate resistance areas, which was right here, right at that 14.5 cent, 15 cent mark. Broke through there, and then we was in a channel at the same time where we finally was up, down, came out the channel, broke through. We also broke over the 50-period moving average. So these are all bullish signals. Now, looking at the daily, the RSI, it maintained itself above the 10-period moving average. Okay, and if no one knows, the RSI measures momentum. All right, so if we break out of over the 10-period moving average and then we hold above it, that shows that the bulls are in control and the momentum is in their control. Even though there wasn't no clear breakout beforehand, the bulls were in control and they were accumulating shares. All right, then we finally had this, as you can see, even the RSI, a low, a high, higher low, tried to make a higher high, broke even, a higher low, and then bam, another higher high. So what can we expect? Now, based off what can we expect, the way I look at things is anytime we're operating between the Bollinger Bands I have set, then I can look at potential price targets. Once we break out of those Bollinger Bands, then I have to start looking at past areas of resistance and support to get an idea of what will happen. Then I also have to tune in into the intraday. Now, looking at intraday, 2 hour, now that I said we broke out, I want to go intraday and look at the chart, because now I'm saying, hey, we broke out, I want to make my entry. So let me go intraday and see if I can get ready to make a good entry. Now, when I look intraday, the RSI, we're reaching oversold. All right, the CCI oversold, and the slow stow is starting to push up into that oversold area. So looking intraday, do I want to make an entry in this area? I do not. Okay, this tells me that intraday there's going to be a pullback. Now, is there going to be a major pullback? No, there isn't, but there is going to be a pullback for this stock to stabilize out, to stable out, all right, to smooth out, to smooth out. Now, the stock is going to pull back, I would say somewhere back in the high mid 15, low 16 range, consolidate a little bit, break out and make its next leg up. So me personally, I'm going to wait until it comes back down to 16. Now, how do we know that this breakout on the daily will continue? the way you know if this trend is going to continue in the future, you have to look at the weekly charts. All right, the weekly charts give you an overall view of what's going on and where the trend is headed. So when we tune out to the weekly, once again, let's zoom back in. Let's go 3 months. When we look at the weekly, let's zoom out a little bit more. That's too close up. All right, so coming back, when we look at the weekly chart, all right, it is in a uptrend week by week. Back in December 26th, the bottom was 12 cents. It topped out, all right, made a high, made a higher high, and then made a higher high. Okay, higher highs, higher lows. All right, now since we know that this stock is on an uptrend on a weekly basis and it's making higher highs and higher lows, then it's safe to say, looking intraday, we know it's gonna pull back a little bit and consolidate. We've already said intraday is gonna pull back around the 15 cent mark and consolidate before its next leg up. So looking at the weekly chart, going into next week, since we are in an uptrend, then you already know that this stock is going to make a higher high. Based off what the weekly is telling you, we can predict what's going to happen next week. So going into next week, this stock is going to make a higher high, which is probably going to be right around this 22 cent range, even that 24 cent range, right where this past top was at. So it's going to make a higher high. I would say safe bets, I'm looking in the past 24 cent range, is going to make a higher high, and it's going to make a higher low. Okay, and that low will probably be this 15 cent mark, where the stock is going to consolidate, because due to intraday, we're oversold on all our indicators, right? So it needs to smooth out. So it's going to pull back. I would say next week is going to pull back into that 15-16 cent range, and then once it consolidates in that area, give or take Monday, Tuesday, it's going to break out and make a run of 20 to 24 cents based off what the weekly is telling us, because right now, again, we're making higher highs and higher lows. So is it safe to make an entry? Yes. On the daily, we've broken out on very high volume. We already see that on the weekly. We are on a continued uptrend, making higher highs and higher lows. On the daily, we've broken out of all resistant areas, and it's safe to say that this stock will continue in this uptrend, and we can predict that going into next week. Now, looking intraday, is it time to make an entry intraday? You could go ahead and jump on top of this at that 17 cent mark, but you'll be buying at top of resistance on the intraday. All right, so I would say wait till this pulls back into that 16-15 cent range and consolidates. Make your target entry, and then wait till next week, and this thing will break back out and head to that what we saw on the weekly of 20 to 24 cents minimum. It could definitely go higher than that, but we're making, like I said, higher highs, higher lows each week. So next week it's safe to say we're going to push up to that 20 and then back to that 24 cent range where that last resistance was at, going into next week. And so if you can get in right at the 15-16 cent range, then going into next week you can make anywhere from a 30 to 40% profit going into next week. And if you got in lower during the past weeks at that 13 cent range, then you have a great entry, because going into next week you already know that we're heading towards 20 to 24 cents. All right, so TTM trades, I hope this helped you all. It's always good to look at different time frames when you make an entry. JAGX is definitely on an uptrend. If you are going to make your entries, I would say make them tomorrow or Monday when this stock pulls back a little bit to consolidate. And then next week, we already know we're making a higher high, because that's what the weekly chart is telling us. TTM Trades, I'm out. If you learned something, leave a comment, subscribe, like, and until next time, see you later.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.